Hey guys, tonight we journey into a realm where time forgets itself, and scripture whispers secrets the world was never meant to hear aloud. You lie back, wait, sinking into the comfort of your bed, and something ancient opens above you like a scroll, too fragile for the waking world. In this moment, clouds don't just drift, they carry names. Angels don't just sing, they remember, and dreams. They become the language God uses when silence is his chosen voice. We're stepping into forgotten gospels and prophetic dreams, some lost, others veiled by divine choice. You're not just a listener tonight. You're a traveler in a world where Jesus leaves no footprints, but every shadow is a clue. You'll walk beside prophets who speak in riddles, angels who almost disobey, and miracles that didn't make it to Sunday school. If you're the type to fall asleep to something gentle, something sacred, well, tonight you probably won't survive this, unless you've got wings or a direct line to the Almighty. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You drift. You don't fall asleep. You rise into it like mist off the Jordan. The night doesn't close your eyes, it lifts your spirit. You're floating over a wilderness that existed before Genesis, when the word hadn't spoken yet, but was humming softly, waiting to be named. Beneath you is no city, no Bethlehem, no Nazareth, just light broken into time, and then suddenly a sound like parchment unrolling. A scroll opens in the dark, but its letters are flame. Not fire, not metaphor, real flame, soft as a candle curling at the edges of invisible ink. You can't read the words, not yet, but they're familiar. You've heard them in dreams you don't remember having. You've forgotten nothing, but you're only just beginning to remember everything. The flame scroll pulses once. A name flutters across it. Yours. Or maybe his. You reach toward it and are gently turned away like a child too early for the answer. And then the scroll falls. Slowly, reverently, into the sea. You land by the shore barefoot in sand that glows slightly beneath each step. No sun, no moon, just that soft, radiant breath of God that lingers in thin air. You feel like you're trespassing, but welcome. And then you see it, a figure kneeling near the edge of the water, dressed in the kind of white that only heaven makes, threaded with gold. You can't quite see, but feel in your bones. The figure is writing something in the air, not sand, with one finger that glows at the tip. You don't speak. You wouldn't dare. But the figure turns slightly, smiling not at you, but through you. Like they see something you haven't seen yet. And they whisper you're early, but not unwelcome. That's when you hear the wind begin to hum. You turn and there they are, scrolls. Dozens of them floating in the sky like birds that never learned to flap their wings. Some are open, revealing glimpses, a young Jesus laughing with a nameless child, an old prophet asleep under a tree of stars, an angel holding a piece of broken bread that bleeds light instead of crumbs. But others are sealed, waxed shut, bound not with ribbon but with silence. You ask without words, why are some closed? The air responds not in sound but in knowing. Because if some truths were spoken in full, the sky would fall from the weight of listening. You nod, unsure if that answer was meant for you, or just allowed near you. One scroll drifts lower. It's ancient but untouched. Bound in leather and something else. Something soft. Flesh, no prayer. You don't open it. You don't need to. Its title isn't on the front. It's inside your chest now, beating faster. You can hear it like music from a room 2 doors away. The Gospel of Dreams. And before you can ask who wrote it, the water near you begins to rise, not crashing, not wild, just rising like it was invited. And inside that rise, voices. Many. Old, young, human, angelic, one of them yours. The kneeling figure gestures wordless. You step in. The sea wraps around your feet, warm as cradle skin. And suddenly, every dream you've ever had but forgot plays behind your eyes like stars blinking awake. You're not dreaming. You're reading, and what you're reading is not fiction, it's scripture that fell through the cracks of human pride, gathered only by those who listen with their spirit first. And just when the water reaches your chest, you don't drown. You sleep inside the dream, and there it is like a whisper behind God's veil. Blessed are the ones who believe even in the stories I didn't let them keep. You smile? Maybe you're ready now. The next scroll begins to glow, and the dream deepens. You float, though the word doesn't quite capture it. It's more like being remembered by light, held, not by hands, but by recognition. The moment you become aware, the dream is already halfway through itself. A hush falls, not silence, but that sacred kind of quiet that trees might keep for angels. You find yourself standing, no hovering above a strange field at night. Below you, the earth looks bruised, tilled. Not by plows, but by footsteps too hesitant to finish the journey. Then wind, soft then sharp. It gathers in a spiral, a cyclone of whispers, and out of it steps a figure you almost know. Ezekiel, but not the one from Sunday sermons, the wild-eyed man with fire on his breath and wheels of fire in the sky. This Ezekiel is quieter now, older, like someone who's seen God one too many times and still doesn't understand why he was allowed to live. You approach him, the ground forming under your feet, only when you dare to step. He kneels near a stone, and you think it's just a rock until it turns and looks at you. It's a face, half buried. Ezekiel doesn't flinch. You're here to hear the breath, he says, as if that explains anything. You ask whose breath, he smiles, almost mischievous. All of them. He gestures, and suddenly the wind gathers again. This time it doesn't spiral. It enters the ground like it's searching for something asleep. And it finds it. Bones. Dry ones. Thousands. You recognize the vision, Ezekiel 37. The Valley of Dry Bones. But this time you're not hearing about it. You're in it. You are it. Each breath the wind releases finds a bone. Each bone remembers. It's not just resurrection, it's recollection. They aren't just bodies coming back to life, they're stories God refuses to forget. One rib glows faintly. It once protected the chest of a woman who carried a prophecy no man ever believed. Another finger twitch belonged to a scribe who wrote a gospel only to bury it in a cave, because the words made the priests afraid. And then you feel it, the breath. It touches you not on the skin but under it. A warmth that isn't temperature but meaning. Your soul flinches and then exhales. Not because it was holding breath, but because it was holding back. Ezekiel watches you kindly. Prophecy isn't just future, he murmurs. It's the parts of the past still waiting to be believed. Behind him, the bones have become bodies, now standing, blinking, wondering if they're dreaming. Some are robed, others naked in light, not ashamed. One by one, they look upward. And above them, not heaven. Not yet. Instead, a scroll opens in the sky, written in sleep itself. The letters move like smoke. Some swirl into shape, others disappear as soon as they're read. And one word stays behind. Awake. Ezekiel smiles wider now. That's the prophecy, he says, to remember. He turns to you. So tell me, what did you forget? You try to answer. A dream from childhood. A prayer you made before you could speak. A moment when you felt a presence in your room, not terrifying, just watching, waiting. That was him, Ezekiel says, reading your thoughts. But he had to wait until your bones were ready to remember. You ask him why, because God doesn't waste breath, he says, even on silence. The wind begins to die down, and the bodies begin to walk. Not away, but inward. Towards something. A light at the center of the valley that doesn't rise like the sun, but opens like a mouth. And then you see it. The mouth is a door. The door is a dream. The dream is yours. You hesitate. Ezekiel touches your shoulder. Dreams are God's way of knocking without waking the world. You nod and step forward. The light doesn't blind. It remembers you. Wraps around your form like a robe made from every prayer you've ever whispered into your pillow, half hoping, half doubting. Just as you pass through the door, you hear a song. It's wordless, but somehow the lyrics are familiar. You don't hear them in your ears, but your bones hum them. One line returns over and over, softer each time. You were always meant to return. And then everything fades, but not into black. Into warmth. You've entered a new room of the dream. The air smells like honey and thunder. Somewhere nearby, someone is writing again. A fresh scroll begins its work, and the ink is made of breath. Your breath. Because you've remembered something, and God has begun to write it down. You find yourself walking through a garden where the air itself feels like it's exhaling prayer. Every leaf seems to shimmer, not with dew, but with memory. Each petal you pass gently leans toward you, as if trying to whisper something lost. There are no paths here yet, you know exactly where to go. You approach a low stone wall overgrown with vines that seem too delicate to hold the truth they hide. Beyond it, a woman kneels alone in the grass. She's cloaked in a robe of muted blue like a twilight sky, just before the first star dares to shine. Her head is bowed, her hands are open. She is not praying. She is listening. And though no name is spoken, you know it is Mary. Not Mary Magdalene, not yet. This is the Mary before all that, before demons fled her presence, before resurrection dawned in her eyes. She is younger here, but older in spirit. There is an angel standing behind her. No wings, no fire, just stillness so complete it bends the moment into something eternal. He is not Gabriel. He is not named. In fact, you get the feeling he's not supposed to be here at all. Mary speaks without lifting her head. I didn't dream him, did I? The angel doesn't answer with words. Instead, the garden hushes. A bird stills mid-flight. The vines around the wall stop curling, and the moment holds its breath. Then the angel kneels beside her gently, reverently, as if kneeling beside the Holy of Holies. He says just one thing. No dream survives this long, unless God is keeping it alive. Mary's hands tremble. I saw him, she says, in the night, in a dream I didn't ask for. The angel finally speaks clearly. You were chosen not because you asked, but because you listened. You feel that deep, like the dream knows your name too and is just waiting for you to quiet down long enough to hear it. Mary looks up at the angel, and there's sorrow in her face, not fear, but that strange mourning that comes when something too holy touches the edges of your life. She knows what this means. She just doesn't know how she knows. There was light, she whispers, not around him, from within. The angel nods, and he was speaking, she continues, but not with words. It was like the stars leaned in. You realize something then. You've stumbled into a moment between scripture and silence. A dream that didn't make it into the canon, not because it wasn't holy, but because it was too tender. Too fragile to be copied by ink and quill. You're watching the moment Mary first knew, not through Gabriel's declaration, but through a dream that came the night before the Annunciation. Scholars argue whether she sensed the divine before the visit. Some claim she was chosen in her innocence, others say in her understanding. But this dream, this veiled meeting with the unnamed angel, suggests both. And now you're part of it. The angel slowly rises. And when he does, the vines around the garden wall bloom instantly, each flower blooming silently, opening like eyelids. And inside, every flower is a face, a soul not yet born. The angel touches one bloom, just one. This one, he says, will call her blessed. You glance down. It's you. You are the one who will remember this dream even if the world forgets. The dream isn't meant for history books. It's meant for midnight hearts. Mary stands. She doesn't speak again. She simply places one hand on her stomach, not because anything has begun, but because something has. Not life, not yet, but possibility. You turn as the garden begins to dissolve, not fade, dissolve, like waking from a memory too sacred to revisit twice. And now you're back in the scroll path, barefoot again, walking slowly as petals fall in reverse. The air carries faint echoes of the angel's voice, but the words are no longer clear. Instead, you hear one soft phrase that isn't quite English, isn't quite ancient, but you understand it completely. Remember the dream even if they forget the story. A new scroll floats down before you. Its edges are singed not by fire, but by glory. That strange, ungraspable presence that follows God like mist on the morning mountain. It's unrolling already. You take a breath. And the next secret begins to whisper. The scroll unfurls slowly like a sunrise too humble to announce itself. Each inch of parchment glows faintly with warmth, not heat, but recognition. And you feel it again, that sacred sensation that you're not learning something new, you're remembering something ancient. This time the dream opens to fire, but not destruction, not judgment. It is the kind of fire that doesn't consume, it reveals. You stand on a vast plain just before dawn. The sky is violet, trembling at the edge of gold. And across the horizon walks a figure alone, barefoot, moving with the slow certainty of someone who has walked this way before. He is veiled in something like smoke and light braided together. You cannot see his face, but you feel his presence pull at the deep threads of your soul, like a name you haven't spoken since Eden. The people called him the Son of Man, but tonight he is something else, the Cloud Walker. You follow behind him, not running, just drawn forward like a tide pulled by unseen moons. He stops at the edge of a cliff where the land drops off into an impossible ocean made not of water, but of memory. It shimmers with every miracle ever forgotten, every prayer whispered into pillows and left unanswered, at least in waking hours. He doesn't speak. He raises his hands, and the sky splits open, not violently, reverently. A seam appears as if heaven is parting its veil just enough to let you glimpse what exists beyond verse and vision. Inside the opening, a flame, hanging in the sky like a suspended heartbeat. It pulses once. And in that instant, you see everything but only as a feeling. Joy that crushes you with its weight. Peace that shakes the bones. Grief that is so holy it turns to gold midair. The Cloudwalker breathes in, and the flame responds. A connection forms, one that exists beyond language. You're watching the first miracle he ever performed, not on Earth, not in Galilee, but before time had a calendar. He is commanding the fire, not to burn, to remember. You don't understand, not fully. But you feel the miracle ripple through the heavens like an echo no one ever dared to catch. Some believe this story appeared in a now-lost scroll, an early gospel burned by fear or pride. Others whisper that it was recorded in the visions of early mystics, seen in dreams they never woke from. But here now, in this dream of yours, it's happening. The Cloudwalker turns, and you finally see his face. It's not what you expect. You are prepared for radiance, glory, maybe even overwhelming love. Instead, he looks tired, not defeated, just burdened, as though carrying the memory of every miracle ever rejected, every truth laughed out of synagogues, every healing that made someone angry instead of grateful. He smiles anyway. Sometimes he says gently, the miracle isn't the fire, it's the silence afterward. Then, without warning, he walks toward the edge and steps off. You gasp. But instead of falling, he disappears into a shaft of golden smoke that curls up into the clouds and vanishes completely. The scroll closes before you. The sky returns to normal. But the air still crackles as if a lightning bolt passed through your chest instead of the heavens. You look down. Where the Cloudwalker stood there is no footprint. Only glass. Perfect, shimmering golden glass formed from earth, so touched by glory, it couldn't remain dust. You kneel beside it. Inside the glass, a single word. Wait. You don't know if it's a command or a promise. And then beside you, something small and feathered lands. An angel? No. A dove, but glowing faintly. It pecks once at the glass as if to say you saw it. That's enough for now. And then it flies toward the rising light. You remain still wrapped in that holy afterglow, the silence that trails behind the voice of God when he speaks not to be heard, but to be felt. Then you hear laughter, far off, light, not mocking, but mysterious. A warm chuckle rolling across the sky like thunder taking a nap. And you smile, because it's him again. The dream isn't over. He's already waiting in the next scroll. The laughter follows you gently, like a memory that refuses to fade. You walk toward it, though your feet don't move. The space around you shifts instead, each step folding the dream like a blanket, wrapping you in something deeper, closer. The next scroll descends slowly. This one is different. It hums. You don't hear it as sound, not exactly. It pulses through your chest like a lullaby sung before creation. The moment your fingers graze its edge, a wind rises carrying the scent of old parchment and olive oil. And then, like a dream you didn't know you were having, you're somewhere else entirely. A small room. Stone walls cool and silent. A single oil lamp flickers in the corner, casting trembling shadows across a table. On the table lies a letter folded, but unfinished. A quill rests beside it, its tip, dark with fresh ink. You are not alone. He sits nearby. John, the beloved disciple. Older than you've ever imagined him. His hair white, his face lined with the softness of one who's seen more light than pain, and more pain than most could survive. His hands tremble slightly as he reaches for the letter, then stops. He sighs. You can tell this letter is not meant for just anyone. It was never sent. You edge closer. The letter is addressed simply to the one who waits. John lifts his head, not looking at you, but through you, as though your soul is familiar. He smiles faintly, then returns to the page. I have seen heaven, he writes aloud, his voice a whisper wrapped in thunder. And what I saw would unmake the world if the world had eyes to see it. You listen. There's no book of John that ends this way, no New Testament scroll with these words. But it's real. You feel its truth press against your spirit like light under locked doors. He continues. There was a mountain not of earth but of song, and each step hummed a name. He pauses. They weren't saints, not yet, just people. People who chose to believe in the dark. He dips the quill again. And at the peak I saw him, not seated, not robed, just kneeling, laughing, as if joy itself was the final commandment. He smiles to himself. No crown, no fire, just eyes like oceans that remember every ship that ever sailed. Then he stops writing. The letter still unfinished. You feel the question in the room. Why was it never sent? Some believe this letter is myth, one of the apocryphal texts whispered about by desert mystics. Others think it's metaphor, a story told to comfort those who feel forgotten by revelation. But here in this dream, it's neither fiction nor symbol. It's just personal. John turns to you now. You're the one it was for, he says gently. I didn't send it because I knew you'd find it when your spirit was ready. You want to ask something, anything, but no words come. He sees the longing in your silence. Not everything was meant for the scrolls, he explains. Some truths God writes directly onto the soul. No ink, no audience, just him and you. Then he does something strange. He picks up the letter and breathes on it. And instead of curling or smudging, the ink rises, floats. The words become light. Each sentence drifts into the air like fireflies. One lands on your shoulder, another kisses your forehead. And when you close your eyes, you don't just see heaven, you remember it. As if your soul was once there, quietly folded beside his throne, waiting for this exact moment to unfold. John rises slowly. He places the quill down with reverence, not for the tool, but for the silence it leaves behind. Now you know, he whispers. What do I know, you finally managed to ask? He smiles that same gentle cosmic smile. That he's closer than breath, quieter than thought, and more patient than time. Then the room begins to dissolve, not in darkness, but in radiance. You don't fall. You ascend back through the scroll, which rolls itself shut behind you, humming softly like a song you'll carry in your sleep for the rest of your life. And above you, the next scroll begins to lower. This one doesn't hum, it waits. The scroll before you waits not in silence, but in reverence. It doesn't rush to open. It seems to ask you, are you ready for this one? You are. The moment your fingers touch its edge, the world melts again. The air grows warmer, heavier with salt and sunlight. You feel sand beneath your bare feet. Wind curls around your ankles. And then there it is, a shoreline, long, golden, endless. The waves hush as they approach like they've been told to whisper in your presence. You kneel instinctively, not in worship, but in curiosity. Something is here. Then you see him, Jesus. But not the familiar Jesus of stained glass and hymnal illustrations. This is him in quiet, at peace, alone. He's crouched down just ahead, tracing something in the sand with his finger. You approach slowly. He doesn't look up. Not yet. You circle behind him and glance at what he's writing. It's not words. It's names. Names you don't recognize at first, but then they start to feel familiar, like people you once loved in a dream. One catches your eye, something about its shape, the way the curves form, like the sound of your own heartbeat. It's your name, written by the hand that shaped galaxies. The hand that calmed storms and touched the blind. Your name not shouted, not carved, but written softly into sand, like a secret shared with the sea. And then just as a wave rises, he lifts his hand and looks at you. Don't worry, he says, smiling, this one doesn't wash away. The wave crashes and your name remains. You kneel beside him, unable to speak, but he doesn't need you to. He gestures to the other names, each glowing faintly under the sun. These are the ones who believed without ever being seen. You ask, believed in what? He turns toward the horizon. Me, he says, but also in you. You blink. That part wasn't expected. They believed you would come, that someone would remember them. Someone would see the words they couldn't say, that you'd carry their dreams forward. You look again at the names. Some are ancient, some feel impossibly new. Some are half-written, as if the story isn't finished yet. Why write them in sand, you ask? He laughs gently, joyfully. Because heaven is patient and earth is honest. The sand never lies. It keeps secrets, but only the good ones. Then he stands. The breeze picks up slightly, and the names shimmer, not disappearing, but transforming. They rise from the ground, becoming light. They don't fly off into the sky, they settle into your chest, like embers nesting in your spirit. And then Jesus bends down again, writes one final name, and says nothing. You don't recognize this one, yet, but you will. As he stands again, you notice a scroll tucked under his arm. You didn't see it before. He offers it to you. For the one you're still becoming, he says. Read it when you're ready to forgive the person you used to be. Your breath catches. You take the scroll. It feels warm. It feels alive. As you stand there, scroll in hand, something tugs at the edges of your awareness. A voice, not his, not yours, saying softly, some believe this moment was written in a lost gospel, an account of a miracle that never made the canon. Others argue it's merely symbolic. But deep down, you know. You were there. You are here. Jesus walks on barefoot across the water now, not showing off, just returning home the way he always does, quietly, impossibly lovingly. The waves ripple in his wake, and your name glows once more, then fades not into nothingness, but into you. It becomes part of your breath, part of your rest. And as the beach dissolves into golden mist, the scroll in your hand opens at last, unrolling toward the next dream, the next secret, the next step in the path you forgot, but always belonged to. Mist curls around your ankles like soft vines of smoke as the shoreline dissolves behind you. The scroll in your hand closes on its own warm until the very last inch disappears. You don't drop it, it simply stops existing. And before you now, a low hill covered in olive trees that shimmer not with dew, but with listening. There's a sound subtle at first, then rising, children singing. But not in joy, not exactly. It's a song you've never heard, yet your bones already know the tune. A lullaby composed of longing and sky. High, trembling voices weaving a harmony too fragile for daylight. You climb. Each step brings the song closer, clearer. At the top of the hill is a cave, small and low, carved naturally into the stone like a wound the earth made on purpose. Ivy coils around the entrance, and as you step toward it, the singing halts. The silence is so sudden it echoes. You duck into the cave. It's cold. Inside the walls seem to breathe a subtle rhythmic pulse like memory exhaling. The space is dim, but not dark. There are no torches, no fire. The only light comes from the stone itself, glowing gently, almost apologetically. Then you hear it. The singing resumes, but now it's not coming from outside. It's from deeper within. You follow. Through a narrow passage, rough but safe. Your hand brushes against a wall and suddenly images. Fleeting ones, carved lightly, almost shyly into the stone. A child with a crown made of reeds. An angel weeping at a gate. A mother holding an empty swaddle, smiling anyway. You turn a final corner and stop. There they are. Children, not many, 10, maybe 12. Huddled together, wrapped in time like statues of breath and prayer. None look directly at you. Their eyes are closed, but they are awake. Singing. You don't understand the words, but your spirit does. This is a song of hiding, of surviving, of being remembered by God when the world forgets your name. Then your breath catches. These are the lost, the ones slaughtered in Herod's madness. But they're not gone. This cave holds their dream, a space where the massacre never reached. A song that kept them breathing long enough to be seen by you. You kneel. The ground is soft here, not dirt, something sacred, something like sleep. One child opens their eyes. They look right through you and smile. We've been waiting, they say. For how long, you ask, barely able to speak. They tilt their head. There's no time in singing. You close your eyes, and for a moment you're part of the chorus. The notes move through your ribs, settling in your spine like roots. You realize this song is older than sorrow, deeper than history. It was never about surviving. It was about being remembered. Some say the massacre of the innocents was so brutal that even heaven looked away. Others believe their souls were taken straight into God's arms before breath left their bodies. But here in this cave, a third truth whispers that God made a space between life and loss where their voices could finish the song that fear interrupted. You open your eyes. The children are gone. But the song lingers. On the wall behind them, one final carving glows faintly. A single word. Mercy. Not a plea. A promise. You rise slowly and step backward out of the cave. The sun outside is rising now, but not just in the sky. Inside you too. You look back once, and though the cave now looks empty, you know, they're still singing, and one day when the world is ready, it will hear them again. The next scroll begins to drift down. You don't reach for it. It lands gently in your open hands. The scroll in your hands feels light, almost too light, as if it's made of breath rather than parchment. Yet when it opens, the dream deepens instantly. The air around you shifts softer, warmer, faintly scented with myrrh and desert wind. You are no longer on the hillside. You're in a room. Simple, quiet, clay walls, a single oil lamp flickers on a low table. There are no crowds here, no disciples, no sermons, just one man sitting cross-legged on a woven mat. Jesus. Not speaking, not teaching, just laughing. It's a sound you weren't prepared for. Not loud, not performative, not like the laugh of someone telling a joke, but like water finally finding its way back to the spring. Like joy that's been holding its breath for centuries. You feel it more than hear it, a low, steady pulse that lifts the room without shaking it. You're not alone. Across from him sits an old woman, her back curved with age, her hands folded with a kind of practiced gentleness. She says nothing, just watches him with eyes that have clearly wept through decades, and now shine with something like relief. You don't know her name. No one wrote it down, but here in this place she matters more than most ever will. Jesus reaches across the table and offers her a piece of dried fig. She accepts it with a smile that looks like peace sculpted into skin. I shouldn't be laughing, he says softly, looking down at his hands. You should, she replies, because you're about to cry. He nods. I know. You understand something then. This moment is borrowed, a secret kept between a Messiah and someone who knew him before the miracles, before the water turned, before the tomb wept light. She was there in the wilderness once, not following, not begging, just watching, listening, praying that the boy with strange eyes and stranger silences would live long enough to change the world. Why did you laugh? She asks. Jesus pauses, then leans back slightly, gazing up at the ceiling, because for a moment he says, I forgot the ending. His voice is soft, but it shakes something in you. Some believe Jesus never laughed, too burdened, too holy. Others say he laughed often, though the Gospels left it out, unsure how to hold that kind of intimacy. But this feels true. A laugh shared in secret. Between two people who understood the weight of divinity clothed in skin, you step forward. The woman turns to you, eyes glowing with something older than fire. You heard it, she asks. You nod. Then carry it, she whispers. Most people only carry his wounds. And just like that, the room begins to dissolve. Not disappear, dissolve. Into golden dust that dances upward like smoke, leaving behind the sound of that sacred laugh, echoing into places in you that had forgotten how to smile. Then, a return. The scroll rolls itself shut in your hands and vanishes in a puff of fragrant wind. You are alone again, though not lonely. The echo of his laugh remains, and it changes things. Because now you know the Son of God laughed, not to mock, not to charm, but because joy is part of the prophecy too. A new scroll falls slowly from above, spiraling like a falling leaf. Its edges shimmer faintly with gold. It lands in your palm and hums once before opening. You take a breath and step into the next wonder. The scroll opens like a sigh, a breath let out after generations of holding it in. As the light spills across your vision, you find yourself beneath a heavy canopy of trees, dense and ancient. Their leaves shimmer, not with sunlight, but with something softer like starlight filtered through memory. The ground is damp. The air smells of myrrh clay, and the quiet tension of something sacred about to be revealed. You're not alone. A woman walks ahead of you, barefoot and purposeful, though the path is unclear. Her hair is veiled, her robe simple. She's not young, not old, just present. Entirely quietly, completely. She does not speak. But every step she takes feels like a prayer being answered. There's something about her. You're certain you've heard her story before, but then again, maybe not. Maybe she was only ever a footnote, a whisper between verses. Then it hits you. She's the one who was never named. Not the woman at the well. Not the one caught in adultery. Not Mary, not Martha, not Magdalene. Someone else. Someone erased or never written at all. You follow her through the trees, and suddenly she stops beneath a clearing where moonlight floods like a blessing. There, in the middle of the glade, lies a shadow. And it's his. Not his body, not his robe, just his shadow. Somehow preserved, somehow still here. The woman kneels beside it and places both her hands into it, not into, as though the shadow is a pool, not a silhouette. The moment she does, the clearing fills with a strange light. It doesn't come from above, it rises out of her. From the center of her chest, light soft and golden, hums outward, like the bloom of a silent trumpet. You move closer. The shadow changes. It begins to mirror her, not copying, remembering. As if the shadow itself recognizes her and is grateful. You see tears fall down her cheeks, but she's smiling. Not out of joy exactly, but release. Like a truth long buried has finally surfaced. She speaks now barely above a whisper. I only touched his shadow. You kneel beside her. Why, you ask? She looks at you, eyes wide, with something like sleep and waking combined. Because the robe wasn't for me. The stories weren't for me. The disciples, they didn't see me, but the shadow knew my name. You feel that truth ripple through your skin like wind. She continues, I was the one behind the crowd. I didn't push through. I waited. And still, he let me be healed. The clearing glows brighter now, and you understand you are standing in a miracle that was never recorded. A healing that went unnoticed, unnamed. One of thousands. But to God, it was never forgotten. Some theologians argue that the Gospels focus only on selected signs, just enough to inspire belief. Others suggest entire scrolls were lost or hidden. But here in this dream, the ones who were never seen are finally given their light. The woman rises slowly. The shadow remains fainter now, but peaceful. You ask her name. She smiles. I don't need one, she says. He called me daughter. That was enough. And then she walks back into the forest, her form dissolving into silver mist with every step. You stay a moment longer. You touch the shadow. And it's warm. Still warm. Then movement. A new scroll falls gently into your lap, but this one feels different. Heavier. Full of things not yet forgiven, not yet healed, not yet written. You understand now not every miracle had a witness, but every miracle had a story. And some of those stories are still waiting for someone like you to remember them. You stand, and the dream moves forward. The scroll in your hands pulses once low, steady, like a heart that remembers something it never meant to feel again. It doesn't open quickly this time. It waits, the way a grave waits, the way a secret waits for the right soul to stumble into it. When it finally unfurls, you're swept into a vision of shadows and stone. A tomb. Not the tomb, another one. Smaller, older, hidden beneath layers of earth and fear. You stand just outside it, beneath the curve of a gnarled olive tree. The wind here doesn't move, leaves it carries voices, regretful ones, anxious. Silent prayers that never rose above the throat. Inside the tomb, a man. Not dead. Not yet. He's asleep. Or trying to be. You walk through the stone archway into the dim chamber. Its walls are smooth carved by a careful hand, and in the center lies a cot made of woven reeds. Upon it, Joseph of Arimathea. He shifts uneasily. His brow furrows. His lips move without sound. He is dreaming, and in this dream you can see his dream. A second layer forms around you like a veil, a dream within the dream. You're in a garden now, but twisted. The colors too bright, the sky too still. And Joseph, younger, dressed in fine linen, stands beside a tall flowering tree. Jesus stands across from him, alive, but only for a moment. Then he vanishes. And the tree withers. Joseph cries out. The sound is terrifying, not because it's loud, but because it's full of failure. You feel it, deep, heavy, like stone pressing into your chest. This is the dream Joseph tried to forget. Not the dream of before the crucifixion, not a vision of warning, but after the tomb. After the silence, it's the dream of what if I hadn't asked for the body? In this vision, Jesus is left on the cross too long. The soldiers take him. The tomb is never offered. The burial never happens. The stone is never rolled. And resurrection, unseen. In Joseph's dream, the story falls apart. Some believe Joseph's role was minor, just a convenient fulfillment of prophecy. Others think he was more than a donor of tombs, perhaps a secret follower, perhaps a quiet prophet. But here you see a man haunted not by what he did, but by what he almost didn't do. You step closer. In the dream, Joseph falls to his knees. The ground beneath him cracks open, not with fire, but with absence. A hole where peace should be. A void where hope didn't arrive on time. Then soft footsteps behind him. You turn. Jesus, wounded, glorious, alive. He doesn't speak. He walks past Joseph, kneels beside the cracked earth, and with his fingers seals it as if patching the wound in Joseph's heart with a gesture alone. Only then does Joseph look up. You knew I'd say yes, he whispers. Jesus places a hand on Joseph's shoulder. I knew you'd almost say no. He smiles. Not in shame, in grace. And the dream begins to fade, first the garden, then the tomb, then the fear. You return to the small stone chamber where Joseph still lies sleeping. He breathes deeply now, peacefully, and you feel it, the sacred weight of a decision made in silence behind closed doors that changed the fabric of heaven. A new scroll appears beside the cot. You don't open it yet. You just rest a hand on it like someone greeting a truth they've only now grown strong enough to carry. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not the resurrection. Sometimes it's the man who risked everything to make space for it. This scroll arrives differently. It doesn't fall. It rolls, upward from the ground at your feet, as if the earth itself is offering it to you like a confession, long buried but still breathing beneath the soil. When it opens, the dream turns inward again. Dim light surrounds you, warm and heavy like the air in an upper room after the door has been sealed. You're in a quiet place, still, unmoving. Dust floats in the air, visible only in narrow beams of golden light. In the center of the room rests a stone, small, smooth, clean, but not ordinary. It hums. Not with sound, but with memory. You step closer. It shifts, just slightly, as if it knows you're here. You don't speak. You kneel not because you're told to, but because it feels wrong to do anything else. This is the stone, the one that rolled itself away, not pushed, not lifted, but moved of its own accord, not in defiance of death, but in obedience to prophecy. You reach out fingertips grazing its surface, and something passes into you, a whisper, a breath that didn't come from lungs, a voice that never needed a throat. It says only this: I saw it. And then you see it too, not in vision, in remembrance. The stone shows you, from its perspective. You see Jesus, lifeless, placed within the tomb. You feel the silence after the final prayer, the last echo of sandals walking away. Then the wait. The long, aching stillness of time compressed into a single breath. And then without trumpet or thunder, a pulse. Not loud, not dramatic. Just certain. A divine yes whispered into creation's ear. Light touches the stone, not light from outside, but from within the tomb. And it begins to move, not by force, by invitation. As if the tomb itself could no longer contain him, not because he escaped, but because he had fulfilled. You're back in the room now. The stone is quiet again, but its whisper remains. You ask aloud, not expecting an answer. Why did you speak? The room replies not with noise, but knowing. 'Cause even stones are witnesses. You think back. All the times Scripture said the rocks will cry out, or he will raise up children from these stones. Maybe it wasn't metaphor. Maybe some stones have always been waiting for someone to ask them what they saw. Some scholars argue whether the stone was moved by angelic power, human hands, or divine force. But here in this dream, a fourth answer rises, that the stone obeyed because it had seen too much not to. It wasn't a barrier. It was a participant, a servant that stepped aside the moment the mission was complete. You sit beside it now, not worshiping, just resting. And the stone hums again one last time. A tone so low, so deep, it doesn't pass through your ears, it passes through your bones. And with it, one final word. Remember. The light fades gently. The room begins to dissolve. You're not left in darkness. You're left in trust. A scroll appears above your open palms, this one wrapped in cloth that smells of frankincense and worn leather. It is already unraveling. And you're already listening. The cloth around the next scroll slips free as if it never meant to stay. It unwraps like a memory too tired to remain hidden, falling in folds around your hands. The scroll itself is old, older than any before it, cracked at the edges. Faint lines of gold weave through the parchment like veins of breath frozen in time. You unroll it slowly, and the dream does not take you upward this time. It descends. You fall not in fear but in reverence into the heart of a forgotten city. Stone towers lean into the dusk. Marketplaces are silent. Lamps flicker behind shuttered windows. You float above rooftops until you reach the edge of a wall. There, hunched and still, sits an angel. Alone, you land behind him. He doesn't move at first. His wings are folded tight, almost painfully so. His robes are rumpled, dust-covered. He looks like someone who arrived long ago and never left. You speak gently. I thought angels rejoiced. He doesn't look at you. Not always. The wind stirs, it tastes of iron and smoke. You begin to understand. This city was warned, and did not listen. This angel sent not with miracles but with mercy had his message refused. The people ignored the signs, turned inward, closed their hearts, and so he sat, not in failure, in sorrow. I was sent to warn them, he says, but I waited too long. I watched them laugh at the thunder, turn their backs when the stars aligned, and when I finally opened my mouth, it was too late. You sit beside him. His face is unlike any you've seen, radiant, yes, but weary. Like someone who has lived for millennia and still doesn't understand why love is so often met with fear. He continues, voice soft. I asked for another chance, to go back, to try again. You wait. And do you know what he said? You shake your head. The angel looks out over the sleeping city. He said you weren't late, you were necessary. The words wash over you like oil poured over stones, soaking into the cracks you didn't know were there. You realize then, even angels carry regret. Even messengers question their timing. And sometimes their mission is not to prevent sorrow, but to witness it, to be present, to weep where others flee. Some believe angels are perfect beings untouched by doubt, immune to sadness. Others say they are tools emotionless, only executing orders. But here now, beside this trembling figure, you understand a third truth, that angels too can break. And in that breaking, they reveal the heart of heaven. The angel finally turns to you. His eyes are pale fire, gentle but relentless. Tell them, he whispers, that we don't always come to save. Sometimes we come to sit. You nod, and he smiles barely. Then slowly he stands. The city below stirs just faintly. A lamp flickers. A child stirs in sleep. A breath is taken that would not have been had he not stayed. And then the angel vanishes. Not in light, in quiet. You remain a moment longer. You feel the stone beneath your feet begin to glow. A single word appears. Stay, not a command. A reminder. Sometimes staying is the miracle. A new scroll finds its way to you. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. Just a hush. Like the space left after a prayer whispered through tears. You open it and step forward. The next scroll unfurls with a softness that feels like breath between sobs. As it opens, the dream shifts again and you find yourself in a familiar place, though it looks different in this light. A garden, but not the gentle one you walked through before. This one feels heavy. Its trees sag beneath unseen weight. The soil beneath your feet clings to you, not with mud, but with sorrow. The air carries something thicker than humidity. It's the ache of knowing what comes next. You are in Gethsemane, but not during the prayer you've always heard about. Not the famous words, not the sweating of blood or the disciples sleeping. This is the moment before all of that. Jesus is alone, utterly terribly alone, and he is silent. He kneels by a rock hand resting on its cool surface, staring at the ground. You wait for him to speak the words we all remember. Not my will, but yours be done. But they don't come. Instead, he opens his mouth, and nothing happens. Not yet. This is the pause. The place between courage and surrender. You can feel the tension inside him, the storm of obedience wrestling with the ache of what must be walked through. Then a whisper, not from his lips, but from within him. A sentence that never made it to paper. If I speak it, it becomes real. He hesitates again. You see a strange glimmer in his eyes, not fear of death, but grief over the distance. The moment when the Father's presence will seem to fade, and the weight of humanity's shadow will fall solely on him. This prayer, the one he almost prayed, is not preserved in Scripture. Some say it was never spoken. Others believe he said it in his heart, but heaven held it in silence, protecting it from being too sacred to share. And here it is. In your dream, held between breath and surrender, he lifts his face toward the sky. No angel appears, no light cracks through the trees, just moonlight, just leaves trembling. And then he closes his mouth. He chooses silence. And in that silence, the most thunderous kind of obedience is born. Because the moment he almost begged for escape, he didn't. He breathed. He stayed. He turned toward the cross, knowing full well the weight. Some theologians say this moment shows his humanity. Others see it as the purest form of divine submission. But here in this hush, you understand something deeper. That God in flesh chose you again and again, even in the breath he didn't take. You kneel beside him now. The garden doesn't speak, but it remembers. And you do too. He finally stands, not with resolve, not with steel, but with tenderness. Like someone walking into pain for the sake of love. He glances at you. And though he says nothing, the look in his eyes says everything. I didn't pray it, because I couldn't bear to unchoose you. You are weeping now, silently. The way heaven does when holy things are remembered rightly. The dream begins to fold inward again. The olive trees blur, the rock fades. The silence remains lingering like incense long after the flame has died. And in your hands another scroll appears. This one is tied with a crimson thread. You pull gently. It begins to open. The crimson thread slips from your fingers like spilled light coiling into the air and vanishing before it hits the ground. The scroll opens with a sound like an exhale, long held, long delayed. And the dream deepens. You're in a chamber not made of stone, not carved by hand, but formed by stillness itself. The walls glow faintly, not from light, but from memory. In the center of the room, on a pedestal of quiet, rests an object so small you almost miss it. A thorn. Alone. Not part of a crown, not tangled in a bundle of cruelty. Just a single thorn floating a few inches above the surface, encased in a soft shimmer of gold light. You step forward, slowly. Something about this thorn feels heavier than iron. You reach for it, and the moment your hand draws near, images flood you, not of pain, of time. This thorn did not pierce only skin. It pierced history. It exists not only in the moment of crucifixion, but in the countless moments before and after. You feel it pressing into the brow of Jesus, not during the mockery, not during the parade of shame, but before he was even taken. A vision, a prophecy, a thorn gifted to him by an angel who couldn't look him in the eye. The memory surrounds you now. You're watching a quiet moment in the wilderness. The Messiah alone praying beneath a fig tree that bears no fruit. And from the dust beside him, something rises, a single thorn glimmering red at the tip, like it already knows what it's meant to do. A figure appears, an angel, but different, flickering, unsure. His wings twitch, his eyes never meet Christ's gaze. He holds the thorn with trembling hands. "This will be one of many," he whispers, "but this is the only one not made by men." He places it gently into the earth. It does not fall, it plants itself and vanishes. Back in the present moment of the dream, you look again at the floating thorn. It's humming now. Not with violence, with remembrance. Because this thorn didn't draw blood. It drew a line across eternity. It was placed in the world not to wound the flesh, but to mark the moment when heaven stopped waiting. Some scholars dismiss stories like this too poetic, too mystical, too hidden in shadow. Others believe there were objects like this scattered across the life of Jesus. Quiet signs never mentioned, never recorded, but known to the earth itself. You reach closer, your fingertip touches the golden glow around the thorn, and instantly you feel it. Not pain, purpose. A sharpness that cuts not through skin but through doubt. The thorn disappears the moment your heart accepts what it offers. And in its place, the pedestal grows warm. One word rises from the stone, etched in a light you cannot describe. Before the betrayal, before the kiss, before the trial, before you even knew you needed saving, there was already a thorn waiting to remember you. You step back, the chamber dissolves. Not into darkness, but into a morning you hadn't noticed arriving. And there, floating before you, the next scroll unfurls. It bears the texture of childhood and the scent of ancient soil. And you already know the next story isn't his. It's about someone small, and yet someone who remembered everything. The scroll unfurls with a rustle like leaves stirred by breath rather than breeze. And immediately the world shifts, not downward or upward, but inward, as if memory itself is folding around you. You stand at the edge of a small village. Galilee, but not bustling with crowds. This is a quieter moment, a sliver of time tucked between miracles. Chickens scurry past, clay pots line shaded alleys, the air smells of herbs drying on windowsills. And somewhere nearby, a child is laughing. You follow the sound. Around a corner beneath a fig tree sits a boy, alone. His clothes are dust-covered, his sandals worn. He draws something in the dirt with a twig spirals, circles, shapes too deliberate to be random. You approach. He looks up and you stop. There is something in his eyes. Not mischief, not fear, not even curiosity. Wonder, but not the kind children usually wear. His wonder is older, wiser, like someone who remembers something far too big to explain. He offers no greeting. He simply says, "I've seen the garden." Your breath catches. "What garden?" you ask softly. He smiles, returning to his drawing. The first one, Eden. You kneel beside him, careful not to disturb the earth he's working with. The designs he's etching begin to take shape: two trees, a river that branches, a path that leads to a gate guarded by fire. How you whisper, "You're just a child." He shrugs. "I was born remembering. Most people forget when they leave heaven. I didn't." The wind hushes. Even the chickens stop. You feel the air tighten, not in fear, but in reverence. This boy, nameless and unnoticed by history, carries visions that angels once cradled. "I dream about it every night," he says, squinting at the sky. "The tree that sings, the grass that glows, the voice that walks." He pauses. "Do you know the voice?" You want to answer, but your throat tightens. Because you do. Or at least you did, before the world dulled your hearing. The boy smiles knowingly. "It's okay. You'll hear it again, maybe even tonight." He draws a fruit now, strange, glowing faintly. "This was never eaten," he whispers. "It's still there." "The fruit of life," you ask. He nods, tracing the outline gently. "And one day we'll eat it again." You sit beside him for a while. He hums a melody that doesn't sound like anything human. It echoes in your chest like something sung by light itself. Not sad, not sweet, just true. Some believe children carry pieces of the divine, glimpses of the before. Others think their innocence is simply emptiness waiting to be filled. But here in this moment, you see a third possibility. That some children remember what we were all supposed to forget. Because remembering too soon is too heavy. But for him, it's just part of breathing. The boy looks up again. "You don't have to believe me," he says. "I do," you reply. He beams. Then suddenly his face changes. He looks at you carefully, tilts his head, and says you were there too. You freeze. In the garden, he nods. Not walking, watching. You stood just beyond the trees near the river. You almost stepped in, but something called you back. Tears rise unexpectedly. Not of sadness, of recognition. The boy pats your hand. It's okay, you'll get back there. The gate's still open, but only in dreams. Then as suddenly as he appeared, he stands, dusts off his tunic, and walks away barefoot, humming the same melody. You stay kneeling, staring at the dirt. And where he once sat, the drawing now glows softly. Just once. Then fades. You look up. A scroll floats down into your lap. It smells faintly of fig leaves and river water. And as it unrolls, you hear the first whisper of the next dream. The scroll unfurls slowly, almost reluctantly, like it knows the story inside is one the world was never quite ready to tell. You're standing on a road, but not the kind you walk in daylight. This road curves oddly, as if unsure of its own destination. It's made not of stone or sand, but of ash, soft, cold, and eerily silent beneath your feet. Trees line either side tall and twisted their branches, bowing as if hiding something sacred. You begin to walk. There are no signs, no mile markers, only the faint hum of silence that seems to grow louder the farther you go. Then you notice something strange. There are no footprints. Not yours, not anyone's. The ash remains undisturbed. You stop, turn around. Nothing. No beginning. You turn forward again. Still no sign of where this road leads. Then movement. Far ahead, just past the fog that hovers where the path begins to vanish, you see figures. 2 of them, walking slowly. Their outlines shimmer not with light, but with memory. You move toward them, quietly, carefully. As you draw near, their voices drift back toward you. One is weeping. The other speaks gently, comforting. You recognize them not by face, but by presence. It's the road to Emmaus, but not that Emmaus. Not the famous 7-mile stretch after the resurrection. This road is older, stranger, woven between dimensions of hope and heartbreak. These 2 figures' disciples perhaps are walking towards something they don't understand, and you realize they never arrived. They vanished, not metaphorically. Literally, there are stories, forgotten ones, of followers who set off into the wilderness after Jesus' death, unable to bear the waiting. Some say they went to find him, others say they fled their fear. But a few whispered accounts speak of a path, one that appears only to those who carry both belief and despair in equal measure. A road with no dust, a path that leaves no trace. One disciple turns slightly, not toward you, toward the fog ahead. He promised, he says. The other nods. Even if we don't reach it, he'll meet us somewhere. They take one more step and disappear. Not into the mist, into light. It swallows them gently. And then the path behind them vanishes. You're left standing alone. The ash beneath your feet begins to dissolve. The trees shudder once and fall still. And you understand, some roads aren't meant to be remembered by earth. They are carved in spirit, walked only by those who carry a certain kind of ache too holy for grief, too deep for language. You kneel, and beneath the fading ash you find it, a strip of cloth folded perfectly, as if left behind on purpose. You lift it gently. It smells of myrrh and warm wind. And sewn into its corner with thread that only shimmers when you tilt it toward the unseen is a word. Still searching, still believing, still walking even when there's no path to see. Some scholars say the road to Emmaus is a symbol. Others insist it was literal, a place you could walk in sandals and sweat. But what you've just seen suggests something more mysterious. That some roads lead not to destinations, but to remembrance. The cloth dissolves in your hands. And just as it does, another scroll curls downward from above, catching in your open palms. It hums softly with anticipation, and you step forward into the garden of the next mystery. The scroll opens before you like a flower that's never seen the sun. It doesn't unfold, it blossoms, unfurling petal by petal, until light pours out and swallows you whole. You emerge in a garden, but not just any garden. This one is wrong. Not in the way of danger, but in the way of impossibility. Because this garden wasn't here yesterday. It wasn't here this morning. You blink. The trees are full grown. The grass is soft and dew-covered. Vines climb lazily across low stone walls that weren't here a moment ago. A fig tree stretches overhead, already thick with ripe fruit, swaying as though it's always known you. You step forward, dazed. Birdsong drifts through the air, but the birds are nowhere to be seen. Everything in this place feels like it was just finished. Like God's breath still lingers on the edges of each leaf. In the center of the garden stands a well, and beside it a woman. She's still, unmoving, dressed in earth-colored robes and a head wrap the color of dusk. Her hands are clasped in front of her and her eyes are closed. not in prayer, in listening. You approach, but she speaks before you do. "I didn't ask for this," she says softly. You pause. "Didn't ask for what?" She opens her eyes, to wake up in a miracle with no one to share it. You follow her gaze. The garden stretches in every direction, but there are no footprints, no voices, no crowd, no one has entered, no one has touched it. It grew overnight, but not for harvest, not for healing, for testimony. "A man passed through here yesterday," she continues. "He didn't look at the ground, didn't pause, but when he left, this place bloomed behind him." She kneels and presses a palm to the soil. Nothing grew here before him, now it sings. You realize something then? This isn't just any garden. It's one of the residues, a place where miracle lingered after the moment was over. A spiritual echo, a shadow of divinity so strong even the soil remembered. Some believe places touched by the Messiah carried permanent change. Others claim those locations faded, returned to dust, forgotten. But here in this impossible garden, you witness the third truth. That sometimes creation itself responds to holiness by continuing the miracle long after the person has gone. The woman stands. She lifts her face to the sky. "Nothing here will be eaten," she says. "No harvest, no crowd. But this garden will remain until someone comes who sees it for what it is." You understand now. That someone is you. You look around again. The leaves shimmer faintly. The wind hums a low chord like a choir holding its breath. And in the middle of it all, by the well, sits a stone bowl filled with pomegranate seeds, untouched. You reach for one. The woman stops you gently. "No," she says, "not yet. They're not for now, they're for memory." And in that moment, the garden begins to fade. Not wilt, not die, just return. The trees soften into mist. The vines unravel. The soil releases its breath. The woman nods at you. "Thank you for seeing it," she whispers. "Now it can rest." And with that, she too dissolves like morning fog when sunlight remembers how to shine. You stand in emptiness again. But not alone, because in your hand, without knowing how you're now holding a seed, one pomegranate seed, glowing gently, alive. A scroll floats down, folding itself in your arms. This one is colder, quieter. It smells of sleep and waiting. And you feel before it even opens that the next vision won't be about what was seen, but what was missed. The scroll in your arms grows heavier as it opens like a stone placed gently on your chest, not to crush, but to remind you to breathe. The light that spills out is dimmer than before, dusted with quiet. It doesn't dazzle, it settles. You blink and find yourself under olive trees once more. But this time they're not glowing. They're weary. You recognize the place instantly, Gethsemane again. But it's not Christ you're here to see. It's them. Peter, James, John. 3 men scattered beneath low branches, heads slumped, bodies curled in half sleep. Their cloaks are drawn close against the cold. Their swords rest unused beside them. They are not peaceful. They are ashamed, though they don't know it yet. You walk between them slowly. They breathe in shallow rhythms, each one carrying the weight of something they didn't mean to do. They didn't mean to sleep. They meant to watch. But exhaustion overtook them. Not the kind from long travel, but the weariness of souls trying to understand a God they couldn't quite hold. Peter stirs first. In his sleep, he murmurs something unintelligible. His fingers twitch toward his blade. His mouth forms the beginning of an apology, then forgets. James dreams of fire, but the flame offers no warmth, only judgment he fears will come for him when the rooster cries. John sleeps silently, but tears streak his face even now. They do not hear the Messiah praying just a stone's throw away. They do not see the agony he endures. They miss it entirely. And yet, he does not wake them. He walks back, finds them like this, and still lets them be. Not because he doesn't need them, but because he loves them anyway. Some believe this moment was a failure, a mark of their weakness. Others say it was a symbol of mankind's spiritual blindness. But here in the hush of the garden, another truth becomes clear, that even in their sleep, they were his. And he covered their failure with grace before they even opened their eyes. You kneel beside John, brush a leaf from his shoulder. He shivers, murmurs a name, not Jesus, but yours. You flinch. How would he know it? But in dreams, time folds. The future presses against the past, like breath against a window. And in this sacred collision, you realize their sleep wasn't just tiredness, it was prophecy. A mirror. Because how many times have you slumbered through the sacred, missed the miracle, failed to watch, and still, you are not cast out. You are loved. Still chosen. Still trusted with the next dawn. You rise slowly. A new sound drifts through the trees. not footsteps, a heartbeat. The rhythm of the Savior's surrender pulsing through the roots beneath your feet. His prayer lingers in the wind, gentle as an apology spoken into a loved one's shoulder. Then, a leaf falls. Not onto the ground, into your palm. You look down, carved on its surface as if etched by divine wind is a single word. Even now, even asleep, even in failure, you are remembered. You are held. The olive grove fades around you, not into night, but into a breathless gray that smells like morning. In your hand, the leaf crumbles into light, and in its place a scroll appears. Worn, quiet, sacred. You open it without hesitation, because the dream continues, even when we close our eyes. The scroll opens like a question, still waiting for its answer. It doesn't spill light or thunder, it simply reveals emptiness. A page that seems unfinished. Lines begin but trail off. Words blur at the edges. You blink, trying to read them, but each time your eyes settle, the ink slips away like dew touched by sun. You're not in a place. You're inside the scroll itself. It stretches out before you like a hallway made of parchment, endless and curving slightly, as if hesitant to reveal what's ahead. You walk. Each step echoes, not with sound, but with story. Whispers cling to the walls. You press your hand to one side, and a memory brushes your palm. A child praying for bread. A widow smiling alone. A dying thief who dares to believe in his final breath. These aren't written clearly. They live between the lines. Then ahead of you, a pedestal forms from nothing. Upon it lies a scroll within the scroll. This one is different. It glows faintly, but only when your eyes are closed. You try once. The moment your eyelids drop, the words appear. A narrative unfolds not of kings or kingdoms, but of you. Moments in your life, small forgotten things appear in golden script. The time you comforted someone who didn't say thank you. The moment you forgave without receiving apology. The decision not to speak when your silence helped someone else breathe. Each moment appears, then fades, and the scroll ends, abruptly. A torn edge, no signature, no final verse, just space. You open your eyes, and the words vanish. You close them again, nothing. The scroll has ended. But not because the story is over, because it hasn't been written yet. You feel it, this scroll is alive, responsive. It waits for something, not from history, but from you. Some believe all of our days are recorded in heaven. Others say only our names are written in the book of life. But what you witness here suggests a softer mystery, that the holiest pages are written in real time, between sleep and wakefulness, in choices made without witness, in kindness that leaves no record. You step back. The hallway of parchment shudders once gently, and then you see it, ink bleeding from above. A single drop. It lands at your feet, and from it a new line begins. Unformed, blank, waiting. You kneel beside it, and the scroll speaks not with voice, but with a phrase that blooms in your chest like a slow sunrise. The rest is yours. Not an obligation, an invitation. You close your eyes again. The line glows, and you understand the unfinished scroll is the most sacred of all, because it is still becoming. The dream softens. The parchment folds itself into light, and another scroll drifts down, this one already written, but unread. It carries a trembling energy like a secret that almost wasn't allowed. You hold it close, and continue forward. This scroll flutters down differently than the others. It wobbles, hesitates midair like it's thinking. When it lands in your hands, it's warm, oddly light, almost hollow. And as you open it, a strange sensation ripples through the dream. Something changed its mind. The parchment inside holds only one image, at first a star. Bright, fixed, sharp, suspended in deep blue ink. Then movement. The star pulses once and begins to drift. You're no longer in a place you can name. The ground is gone. So is the sky. There's only endless twilight and this one glowing star moving across a blank expanse like a story walking out of order. You follow it. You have to. It pulls you not by force but by familiarity, like something once promised but long forgotten. It leads you through layers of light and shadow, across fields of memory and through vaults of silence. You pass whispers disguised as wind. You see reflections of faces you've never met, smiling as if they know what comes next. Then suddenly the star stops, not over Bethlehem, not above a manger, but just before, hovering in the air like a breath held too long. You wait. It doesn't move. The silence stretches, and then the star begins to retreat. It moves backward. Slow at first, then faster. You blink. This isn't right. Stars don't change course. But this one does. as if it regrets something, as if it saw something ahead it couldn't carry. A baby. A cross. The ache of all things being born into time only to be torn by it. Some scholars say the Star of Bethlehem was a celestial alignment. Others claim it was a supernatural sign, a light engineered for one moment only. But this scroll shows you another layer, that the star was sentient. It was witness. And when it glimpsed what this child would endure, it hesitated. It almost didn't guide them. Almost. But even doubt, even sorrow, couldn't stop what was written before the foundation of the world. You stand still watching the star drift. And then like a heart overcoming fear, it pulses once more brighter than before, and reverses course again, heading toward Bethlehem with purpose. But slower, more reverent. The journey will not be rushed now, because sometimes the light knows what it's illuminating, and grieves. You walk beneath it now, and your shadow glows faintly beneath your feet. The star is no longer just a light in the sky, it's a companion, a divine soul that bore witness to the birth of sacrifice. You whisper to it, "Why did you turn back?" And in your mind you hear it answer, "To weep." The dream grows still. The sky above you now is full of stars, but none shine quite like that one. And just before you can speak again, the scroll closes with a soft sigh. Another descends. This one carries the scent of fire and lavender. And the next dream belongs to someone who saw too much, twice. The lavender-scented scroll unfurls with the grace of a feather, drifting through dream space. But the moment it opens, everything becomes heavier. Not dark. Just laden. You land in a quiet room, clay-walled and windowless. There is no lamp yet. The space glows faintly from a single flame dancing in a brass dish at the far end of the room. Seated beside it is a girl, young no more than 12. She sits cross-legged on the floor, eyes wide, lips moving but making no sound. Her face is pale with awe, and her fingers tremble slightly as they trace invisible lines across her skirt. She doesn't see you. She is inside the dream. You draw closer and feel something shift in the air, thicker, warmer, like breath held just behind the veil of time. And then you see what she sees. It unfolds above the flame, not as fire but as image. Crude, fragmented, shadowy, still unmistakable. A man on a cross. The dream wraps around her like a mantle too large for her shoulders. You can feel it, this is not a dream she asked for. It was given suddenly, fiercely. And the girl does not understand. She flinches when the nails appear. She gasps when the sky turns black. And then tears, silent, hot, streaming down a face too young to know what grief like this means. But the dream continues, and then ends, abruptly. She falls backward, faint but unharmed, her breathing ragged, her body shaking. A woman rushes in, her mother perhaps, and gathers her in her arms. She saw him again, the woman whispers, stroking her hair. Again, because this was not the girl's first vision. It was her second. You step backward, stunned. The dream folds inward. The scroll shifts, and now you see the first vision rewinding like silk pulled back onto a spindle. The same girl, a different night. Same room, same flame, but the image is different. In this vision, the man stands at the edge of a great hill, speaking softly to a crowd. His hands glow faintly with light, not wounds. His robe ripples with the wind of heaven. His face is not twisted in agony, it shines with knowing. And the girl, she's not crying. She's smiling, at peace. This was the first dream, of a man who loved like God and walked like man. It was only after she saw him crucified that the weight of that love shattered her innocence. You return to the second vision. The room is quiet again. The girl now sleeps, her head resting on her mother's lap. A soft glow surrounds her. And in the silence, a voice not hers, not her mother's, whispers into the air. She was chosen to carry two dreams, one of joy, one of sorrow, so that she may remember what the world tries to forget, that the miracle always breaks before it heals. Some say dreams are random, some say divine, but here you witness another truth, that certain souls, especially the small and forgotten, are trusted with visions that entire councils of men would fear to write down. You kneel, and the ground beneath you glows softly. One word appears, bearer, because she wasn't the interpreter. She wasn't the prophet, she was the one who held it. And sometimes that's the holiest role of all. The scroll seals itself. You rise. A new one floats toward you, cooler, older, trimmed with threads of indigo and linen. You take a breath and follow the dream forward. The indigo-trimmed scroll glides open in your hands, releasing a breath of warm air tinged with cedar and candle smoke. The moment it unfurls, time slows not into stillness, but into silence. A silence that feels intentional, protective. You are in Nazareth. But not the Nazareth from sermons or illustrated Bibles. This one is quiet. No crowds, no miracles. Just soft-footed goat stone courtyards and the hush of ordinary lives, unfolding one breath at a time. You walk through narrow alleys, lanterns swing in windows. Water drips from clay jugs. It's the calm before a story begins, or the part no one thought important enough to record. Then you see him, Jesus. But younger, 16, perhaps 17, alone. He sits beneath the wooden frame of a half-built table, sanding the edges slowly, rhythmically. Not because anyone is watching, but because he cares, deeply. About every corner, every grain. You move closer, and then you feel it. This is a miracle. Not of healing, not of signs or wonders, but of patience. Every movement he makes radiates intentionality. A divine being learning to live inside time, inside a body, inside days that pass unnoticed by history. He finishes sanding, leans back, and wipes his brow with the sleeve of his tunic. You expect him to speak. He doesn't. Instead, he reaches for a small piece of wood beside him and carves something into it. You lean in to see. It's a fish. Simple, delicate, unfinished. Then he flips it over and writes a single word on the back. Wait. You sit beside him. He glances at you, smiles but says nothing. And suddenly you understand. These are the hidden years. The ones no gospel covers. The ones where God himself walked among men unnoticed, not because he was hiding, but because he was becoming. Some argue that the Gospels omit these years because they held no doctrinal value. Others say they were lost, deemed unnecessary. But here, in the dusty calm of Nazareth, you witness a sacred truth, that every ordinary moment was laced with divinity, that the Son of God waited to teach, waited to heal, waited to be recognized. He stands now, stretches, and walks toward the doorway of the shop. You follow, and as he steps into the sunlight, he pauses, closes his eyes, and listens to birdsong, to breeze, to something deep inside the marrow of time. And in that pause, he smiles again, wider this time, as if he just remembered how much he loves this world even when it isn't ready for him. He turns back, speaks at last. Not a sermon, just a whisper. Some things grow better in silence. Then he disappears into the light. You remain in the doorway. The carved fish lies where he left it. You pick it up, and it glows faintly in your hand, warm with something like promise. The dream begins to fade. Nazareth softens around you, and a new scroll drifts downward, thicker, darker, lined with threads of crimson and silver. There's weight in this one. You feel it before you even touch it, and the next vision carries the ache of betrayal. The scroll with crimson and silver threads pulses in your hands like a heartbeat wrapped in silence. It feels heavier than the others, not in weight, but in cost. As it opens, the dream thickens. You are in a room dimly lit by torchlight, its stone walls flickering with shadows that move too slowly to be cast by fire. You step carefully. The air smells of wine dust and something more fragile, like the echo of regret still trying to find its way back to God. A man sits at a table, alone. His elbows rest on the wood, his fingers woven tightly together as if trying to keep his hands from trembling. His cloak is dark. His beard is neat. His eyes are bloodshot, staring past the flame in front of him. You know his name before you hear it, Judas. But this is not the moment after. Not yet. This is the night before. And what you've entered is not a scene of action, but of wrestling. A dream within a man no one believed could dream anything holy. You move closer. He doesn't see you, but he speaks low-strained. He said my name today, like it mattered. He presses a hand to his chest, and it hurt. You stop. That's not something we're told about Judas. That hearing his name on Jesus' lips hurt. He reaches into his cloak and pulls out a small cloth bag. The silver is not inside it yet. Instead, he removes a stone. Rough, unremarkable. He rolls it between his palms. 30 coins will ring, he whispers, but this one already speaks louder. He sets it down on the table, and the moment it touches the wood, it shifts. You blink. It's no longer a stone. It's a coin, worn, unmarked. You stare at it, confused. Judas sees your gaze, though he shouldn't be able to, and says, "He gave this to me when I was a child." Your breath catches. A small gift he adds before the teachings, before the crowds, before the fame. You ask, barely whispering, "Then why?" He closes his eyes. "Because another voice spoke in my dream last night." You lean in. "What voice?" He doesn't answer right away. Then softly, it sounded like him, but it wasn't. And that's when the dream within the dream opens wider. You are inside Judas's other dream now. Darkness. A corridor of mirrors, but the reflections show only your fears. Judas walks through them, clutching the coin, searching for the voice that called him, and then he hears it. Soft, loving, familiar, but wrong. Just enough. Just slightly. It calls him friend. It promises a shortcut, a crown without a cross, a kingdom without death. Judas turns toward the voice and wakes. Back in the torchlit room. Back at the table. You understand something then. He didn't want to betray. He wanted to force a miracle, to accelerate salvation, to make Jesus reveal himself so the world would bow now, not later. He didn't plan on the silence. He didn't expect mercy. And now he cannot undo the voice he listened to. Some say Judas was possessed. Others say he was a tool necessary for the prophecy to unfold. But here in this quiet moment, before silver meets palm, a different truth settles over you. That Judas carried two voices in his soul, and one of them sounded almost divine. Almost. He stands now, leaves the coin behind. It remains on the table. You move to touch it, but it turns back into a stone. Not ordinary. Heavy with meaning. Carved on its side, faint but enduring is one word. Almost. The room fades. You are alone again. The silver has not been exchanged yet, but it will. And when it does, another scroll will open. This one glides towards you now, whispering like wind through torn veils. You catch it. It's soft, warm, and it hums like bread fresh from heaven's oven. The scroll in your hands radiates comfort. Its parchment is softer than the rest, more like woven cloth than paper. And when it unfurls, the scent that escapes is overwhelming in its gentleness. Baked wheat, honey, firewood, and something else. Something ancient and airy like memory folded into flour. You are in a room, simple, circular, lit with early morning light filtering through a gap in the wall. There are no windows, just openings where the wind moves freely. You hear birdsong outside, muted but joyful. In the center, a low table, and upon it bread. Round, golden, steaming faintly, though no one is near. No fire burns in the room. No hands shape the dough, but the bread is alive. You step forward, drawn not by hunger, but by recognition. This isn't just food. This is leftover holiness. You sit before it, and it begins to sing. Not loudly, not with lyrics, just a hum soft resonant like air vibrating inside a bell that was never struck. You don't move. You listen, and in that sound something awakens within you. You remember every time you broke bread with someone and the silence felt full of more than words. You remember laughter shared around tables, prayers whispered with mouths full, hands passing plates in rhythms older than recipes, and suddenly you understand this bread isn't from a specific miracle. It's from many, from leftovers gathered when no one was watching, from meals Jesus made when the crowd had left, when only a few remained and were too tired to speak, from fish fires on empty beaches and silent blessings before sleep. You pick up a piece. It hums louder in your hand, and you hear his voice not speaking to you but through you. Man shall not live by bread alone, but even this I blessed. You bite gently. The taste is unlike anything you've known. Not sweet, not salty, but complete. As if every bite fills not your stomach, but a hunger you forgot had a name. And then an image forms in the rising steam. A memory not from your life, but from the bread's. Jesus breaking it, but not at the Last Supper. Not before 5,000. Alone, in a quiet place. Just himself. Tearing a small loaf, blessing it, not for a crowd, not for a sermon, but for the moment itself. Because even when no one else was watching, he was still giving, still grateful, still love. Some scholars say we've exaggerated the miracles of loaves and fishes. Others say we've understated them, that the real miracle was never the multiplication, but the sharing. This bread tells a third story, that some food wasn't multiplied for crowds. It was sung into being for those who couldn't believe yet. You hold what remains of the piece in your hand. It no longer hums. It's resting now, because it knows you've heard it. You wrap the remainder gently in your robe. And as you stand, the room begins to dissolve, not collapse, just dim like a candle, quietly deciding its time. A scroll appears in the doorway where light once stood. It hovers there, long and narrow, inked in a pattern that seems to flicker like breath on glass just before sleep takes you fully. You take it. You already know. This scroll carries a dream too deep to return from, a prophet who wouldn't wake. The scroll unwinds slowly, reluctantly, like a curtain parting over a dream too fragile for the waking world. Its parchment is cool to the touch, and as it opens, the air around you changes. Heavier, thicker, sleepier, but not in the way of comfort, in the way of surrender. You're standing in a stone chamber now round and windowless, carved into the side of a mountain. Candles flicker around the walls, not placed by human hands, but suspended in air like little halos of remembering. In the center of the room, a figure lying still, not dead, not awake, a prophet. His breath rises and falls slowly, deeply, like waves you can't see but feel in your bones. You approach cautiously. He doesn't stir. His name isn't spoken aloud, but you know it. Elijah. Daniel? Someone unnamed. It doesn't matter, because this dream is about his choice. He's not stuck. He's refusing to wake. You kneel beside him. His face is peaceful, but his brow holds a trace of conflict, like someone who tasted the full weight of truth and decided, this world cannot bear it yet. A voice soft surrounding female and male at once whispers into the room. He saw too much. And suddenly the chamber shifts. You're not beside the sleeping prophet anymore. You're inside his last dream. It's vivid. More vivid than anything so far. Skies swirl with colors unnamed, cities made of song, mountains that breathe, and in the center of it all, a throne, but not occupied. Not yet. The prophet walks through this world slowly, reverently. He touches nothing, but everything bends slightly as he passes, recognizing him. Trees lower their limbs, waters ripple backward, angels hover above but say nothing. He approaches the throne, kneels, and then turns away. He walks back through the dream, back to the entrance, and stops. I could stay, he whispers, but they still need me to remember it. And just as he reaches for the exit, he falls asleep. Not violently, not with fear, just lets go. He never left the dream. He chose to remain within it so the world could still receive its echo. You return to the chamber. The prophet still lies there. His lips move, but not with breath. With a whisper, I wrote it in the sky. You look up and see that the ceiling is covered in stars, but not arranged randomly. They're scripture. Moving, living. Verses written in constellations shifting into different messages each time you blink. No one has read them all. Not yet. You reach toward one. It hums. It says, "What is hidden is not forgotten." The prophet exhales softly. You realize something profound then. This is not a punishment. It's a gift. God allowed this soul to sleep inside the dream so that truth could stay safe until the right hearts were ready to hear it. Some believe prophets are voices only. Others think they are messengers flaring bright and brief. But here a third truth rests. Some prophets are vaults. They sleep not because they are weary, but because the world still needs their dreams. You rise. The candles dim one by one. The chamber fades. And in your hand a new scroll appears, wrapped in fabric that shivers when touched. It pulses with something not quite holy, not quite monstrous, but entirely unknown. And the next vision has eyes. The scroll in your hands trembles as it opens, not with fear but with restraint, as if it holds something barely contained, something watching you even before the parchment finishes unfurling. The moment it does, you are standing in a field at twilight. The grass is black, the sky is molten. A strange wind presses low against the earth, not above you, but below, as if the ground itself is breathing. And then you hear it. A low growl, not of throat or beast, but of time itself turning in its sleep. Ahead of you, rising from the field like a monument half swallowed by creation, is a creature. Huge. Still, half shadow, half form. The beast from Revelation. 7 heads, 10 horns. Crowns glinting with pride not earned but demanded. Its body shimmers with symbols, blasphemous, violent, jagged. Its breath clouds the air like ash falling upward. You move closer, not out of courage, out of calling. This moment isn't about fear, it's about seeing. You step forward, and one of the beast's eyes opens. Just one. And what you see there stops you cold. Not fire, not rage, but a child's eye. Wide, blue, still wet with wonder. You stumble backward, confused. The eye follows you, not to threaten, to beg, for what you don't yet know. The beast shifts just slightly, and you see that beneath the terrible armor of prophecy, beneath the scales and scripture-wrapped warnings, something is trapped. Or someone. A child, curled in the hollow where its ribs should be, sleeping, protected by the very thing you were taught to fear. You kneel trembling. A voice reaches you not from the beast, but from the wind curling through its frame. Some things wear terror to survive. You begin to understand. The beast is not only judgment, it is also grief. The grief of a world that twisted beauty into threat. The grief of truths forced into exile. The grief of the divine misunderstood so deeply it had to wrap itself in horror just to be seen. And at its center, a child. You watch as the child stirs, opens its eyes, looks at you, and smiles. Not with malice, with recognition. Some theologians say the beast is empire or a system or the final embodiment of rebellion. Others call it metaphor or fear cloaked in flesh. But here in the field of not quite night, a different possibility rises. That the beast is what happens to revelation when it is exiled from love. You step forward again. The beast does not resist. Its great form bends downward slowly like a mountain humbling itself to be touched. You press your palm to its side. It shudders, not in rage, in release. The crowns fall, the horns fade, and the eye closes just one. Enough. You back away, and the field begins to dissolve, not into peace, into understanding. The wind lifts, carries with it the last words of the child spoken not aloud but into your bones. I waited inside until someone stopped being afraid. The sky softens, the ground breathes one last time, and a scroll sleek and pale falls like a feather from above. You catch it before it lands. This one pulses not with warning, but with resurrection. The pale scroll unfolds not like paper, but like breath cool, deliberate, necessary. The moment it opens in your hands, something shifts behind your ribs. Not pressure, not fear. A quickening. You are in a tomb. Not the tomb, but close. There are no angels here, no guards. Just stone rounded, soft-edged by time. The air is still, not dead, not alive. Waiting. You walk forward. The chamber narrows slightly, then opens into a round interior dimly lit by a source you cannot see. And there on a stone slab, two forms, side by side. One is Jesus. You know him by silence alone. His body rests in perfect stillness, wrapped in linen like moonlight folded around memory. The second figure is different, shorter, thinner, wrapped the same way. Their face is turned away, but they're breathing, very slightly. You step closer. This is not Lazarus, not the widow's son, not Jairus' daughter. This one was never mentioned, never written. You feel the truth pour over you like oil. This is someone who died with him, not crucified, but broken, beside. And their breath has begun to return. You kneel beside them. You hear it soft, slow. Inhale, pause, exhale. The stone beneath you is humming now, not with music, but with remembrance. The kind of holy vibration that comes only when time folds inward and heaven touches dust. And then, from the second body's lips, a word, barely formed, almost too quiet to register. What, me? No answer comes, but you feel it. It floods the room without sound or language, because even in death you chose to stay close. Some say only Christ rose, that his resurrection was singular, unprecedented. Others whisper of the graves that broke open the saints who walked again. But this is something deeper, a resurrection not for proclamation, but for witness. This person didn't wake to tell a crowd. They woke to remember what the inside of resurrection feels like. You reach for their hand. It is warm, unsteady, but alive. They turn their face toward you, and you gasp. It's you, your face, not mirrored, not imagined, but you as you might be if grief had been your womb and light your only breath. The figure smiles, whispers again. You stayed, and suddenly the tomb shatters into light. Not destruction, completion. You stand now beneath a sky split open by sunrise. The air is filled with fragrant spices, morning air, and something sweeter. A voice behind you, not his, not yours, says. The second breath is always quieter, but no less sacred. You bow your head. Tears run freely. Not sorrow, recognition. You were resurrected once and never knew it. A part of you rose beside him, unnamed, unnoticed. Until now. You feel a flutter in your hand. Another scroll. This one is clear, not transparent, but pure. Its edges shimmer with hesitation and mystery. As you open it, the world leans in. Because what comes next is a question even heaven doesn't fully answer. The scroll in your hand is translucent, humming softly, as if it's made of water held together by light. It doesn't simply open. It asks permission. You grant it without words. It unspools like a ripple through silence, and the moment it does, the dream shifts again. Everything grows still, not peaceful, but poised. As if the entire world is holding its breath for what comes next. You're in a high place now. Not a mountain, not a temple. Something beyond structure, formed from intention more than stone. And beside you, watching the horizon with wings folded and eyes dark with wonder, is an angel. They don't speak. Not at first. Their feathers shimmer with gold at the edges, but their posture is slouched not in laziness, but in sorrow. Their hands rest on their knees, their gaze fixed on something far away that you cannot yet see. You sit beside them. Wait. Finally, the angel sighs. Soft, heavy. I asked why they say voice quiet but eternal, and no one would answer. You turn to them. They continue. I watched the crucifixion. I was there when the veil tore, when the earth cracked, when the sky screamed. They pause. I was ready to descend, to strike down the crowd, to lift him before the pain began. I had the sword. I had the order, until it changed. Their hands tremble. I asked why he had to suffer, why we were held back, why all heaven stood silent while all hell rejoiced. You ask the only question that makes sense. What did he say? The angel looks at you, eyes vast and weary. Nothing. They laugh softly. Not then, not ever. He never explained it, never defended it. He only forgave. A long silence follows, the kind that stretches into galaxies. I know angels are supposed to obey, they say, but some of us, we still wonder. You glance at their hands. The sword is still there, sheathed, untouched. Not because it was forgotten, because it was refused. You ask, do you regret not acting? They look at you, and this time you see something unexpected. Tears. I don't regret the stillness, they say. I regret not understanding it sooner. They unfold their wings now slowly. Each feather sings softly as it stretches into place. And then they whisper. There was power in the pain, and I didn't see it. You look out over the horizon, and suddenly you see what the angel was watching. The cross. Still standing. Not in blood. In light. Rising into the clouds like a monument carved out of time. No nails now, no crown of thorns, just radiance. And at its base, footsteps. Yours. You ask what now? The angel tilts their head. Now you ask the same question. They stand, look down at you with a softness that feels like song. Don't be afraid to wonder, they say. Even heaven doesn't have all the words. And just before they disappear, they add one final phrase. The answer isn't what he said, it's what he endured. You're alone again, but not lonely. The sky closes gently, and in your hand a new scroll, this one wrapped in soft parchment that glows from within like a flame covered in sleep. It hums faintly, and you feel the pull toward a final dream. One that has waited not for millennia, but for you. The scroll in your hand feels different. Not older, not newer, just present. It pulses softly like a heartbeat that began the moment you were born and has been waiting for this dream to catch up. When it opens, the air around you changes. There is no scene. No temple, no desert, no garden or room. Only space still silver blue filled with suspended particles of light. They drift like pollen, glowing softly, swirling around you as though drawn to your breath. A voice speaks, but it's not from above. It's within. This dream has been waiting for you. A single orb of light hovers ahead. Small, gentle, pulsing faintly. You step toward it. Inside, images flicker too fast to fully see. A flood, a child, a torn veil, a name whispered in sleep. Your name. The voice continues. There are dreams God keeps not for the prophets, not for the scribes, but for those who will live long enough to carry them. This is one of them. A dream not sent to the ancients but to you, because the time for it is now. You reach out. The orb touches your forehead. And then vision, not backward, forward. You see cities made of stillness, people weeping with joy in rooms where no sermons are preached. You see children teaching their elders how to pray again, not through words, but through wonder. You see healings with no hands, bread shared without asking, angels sitting quietly beside addicts. You see the church not as structure, but as presence, as a song hummed in alleyways and whispered across oceans. You see war, but beneath it something stronger stirring. A reckoning not with violence, but with remembrance. The orb shows you a scroll, blank, but titled. At the top, written in the same light that wrapped the burning bush, it reads, "The dream not yet fulfilled," and you know it's yours. To pray into, to speak softly about, to carry in how you treat the unnoticed. You ask, why me? The voice replies, because you listened. And then, because you wondered without needing control. The orb dissolves, and the light particles begin to settle. You're left standing in stillness again, but something inside you is louder now, alive, like a river that finally found the sea. Some believe prophecy ended with the final verse. Others believe it never truly began. But here in this sacred pause between dreams, you learn the truest thing of all, that God still speaks in sleep. That not every revelation was meant for ages past. Some were born for you, now. The particles fade gently. A scroll floats down, white, silent, final. You catch it. Its edges are glowing gold, but no longer pulsing, just waiting. You feel it. This is the last. And beyond it, light that has no beginning and doesn't need an end. The final scroll lands softly in your palms, weightless, yet full of presence. It doesn't unravel like the others. It opens toward you as if recognizing your soul as the key it has waited for all along. And suddenly everything slows. You are no longer in any place at all. No hills, no sky, no temple, no garden. Only light. But not blinding, not brilliant. Just constant like eternity wrapping itself around you in a shawl of warmth. The scroll speaks before you do. Not with sound, but with knowing. You've come to the place where scripture ends, but story continues. Ahead of you, a soft line of golden light stretching into what feels like forever. You walk. Not because you must, but because you've always been meant to. And as you do, the world gently remembers you. You pass through scenes. Familiar but brighter now. The cave of children still singing. The woman who touched his shadow. The stone that whispered. The angel who asked why. All of them nod as you pass, not as memories, but as companions. You realize then you never left them. Each dream lives inside you. And beyond them, a threshold. Not a gate, not a door. Just a veil, soft gossamer pulsing like breath. You reach it, touch it. And just before you pass through a voice, his voice speaks one final sentence. There are stories even heaven cannot hold until someone dares to dream them. You step through, and there it is. Light beyond the last verse. A meadow without sky. A sky without edge. Every word ever unspoken blooms here. Every tear ever unshed is gathered like pearls in golden bowls. Every forgotten miracle dances quietly in open fields of glory, watched by angels who no longer need to explain anything. There is no temple. There is no fear. Only a sense that the dream has ended. And begun. You lie down. The grass sings beneath you soft and warm. Above the stars move slowly, forming verses never read aloud. One word settles gently into your chest. Home. And for the first time since the scrolls began, you rest. Now the dream begins to soften. You feel your breath deepen slow and steady as the light fades gently around you, like a warm fog drawn across the soul. No more visions now. Just peace. Let your body sink into the quiet. Let your thoughts drift like leaves across still water. The stories have been spoken, the secrets shared. There is nothing more to chase tonight, only to hold softly like a candle in a darkened room. Imagine yourself wrapped in silence, not emptiness, but fullness too complete for sound. You are not alone. The angels you met tonight still move beside you, invisible but near. The voice that whispered through scrolls still hums in the quiet beneath your breath. The divine presence has not departed, it has simply settled, like dew, like moonlight, like grace. Let your spirit lie down beside those forgotten miracles. Let your dreams mingle with the dreams of heaven. There is no need to understand everything right now. You are allowed to rest without resolving the mystery. You are held. You are loved. You are remembered by God in 1,000 ways your waking self may never see. So sleep now quietly. And if you find yourself dreaming again, may the scrolls open once more. End of script. Sweet dreams.